Well, in a recent development, Egypt has announced that it will procure wheat from India. This is coming at a time when we know that wheat is something that has become an important commodity amidst the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. With me is the Egyptian envoy to Delhi to talk about the decision by the Egyptian government on procuring wheat from India. So, welcome to WION. My first question to you is an obvious question. The decision has been taken. What's the rationale behind this decision of importing wheat from India?
Well, to start with, thank you very much for having me on WION. It's a great opportunity to communicate with the Indian audiences. And concerning wheat, as you rightly said, the crisis between Ukraine and Russia has led to drastic increases in the prices of wheat internationally. Egypt has traditionally been one of the largest importers of wheat on the international level until maybe last year we were actually the largest importer. Maybe this year we are the second or the third largest importer in the world. India, at the same time, is one of the largest producers. It has not been a big company when it comes to exports of wheat so far, but it seems that India is willing to go into the export market of wheat, and Egypt, being one of the largest importers, definitely Egypt is very much interested in building relations with India in this respect.
There was a team which visited from Egypt here in India. What was the basic purpose of that team here in India? They went to various places as well, fields. I saw the visuals as well.
Yes, they actually visited many places. They stayed here. They came last week. They stayed for something like 4 or 5 days. They were very hectic 4 or 5 days. The Indian side actually prepared an extensive program for them. They were able to inspect, to have a look at the fields, at the production of wheat in India, and also at the labs in which the wheat is being analyzed for its nutrients and the quality of the wheat that India is producing. And the purpose of the visit is basically to gather as much information on Indian wheat and how good it is and how adequate it is for the Egyptian market, so as to make sure that this is actually the kind of wheat that we want to provide our citizens with. Because, as you know, wheat is a strategic commodity, and every country puts its own standards for wheat, and this was the main purpose of the visit of our experts last week.
Mm-hmm. So when will the imports from India to Egypt begin, and any quantity which Egypt wants to import from India being talked about?
Egypt, our production is normally of wheat in Egypt is normally about 9,000 tons, but our consumption is close to 22 million tons every year. This means that we import something like 12 or 13 million tons every year. It's very difficult to imagine that India would be willing to export that much, that any one country can fulfill the gap between the 9 million that Egypt produces and that the approximately 22 that Egypt consumes. And so far, there has not been any commercial discussions as far as I know. All that happened so far is that the Egyptian experts were here, and they actually find that the Indian wheat is good enough to be imported into Egypt. In what quantities, when, by whom, and so on and so forth, this is all going to be subject to commercial discussions that would come at a later stage.
Mm-hmm. The Indian Trade Minister recently did press conference. He talked about how in Dubai he met your minister and the process started. If you can talk about that, how the chit, in fact, he talked about was given to him and he met and the decision was taken that there will be a visit of the Egyptian team.
Yes, you know, before taking a decision that is that important and that strategic as adding one country to the list of certified exporters of wheat to Egypt, of course, a lot of communications and a lot of interactions and meetings take place, because this is a really big decision. And I'm sure that many such meetings took place. One of them is actually, yes, as you rightly mentioned, the meeting of your Minister of Commerce with our Minister of Development, with our Minister of Trade, and they actually discussed this, but there were also some there were numerous discussions on this issue, even dating before this particular meeting in Dubai. My understanding is that many of these contacts took place even before the meetings between the two trade ministers in Dubai, and the main result is that we actually received the Egyptian experts last week, and that we are here already discussing the possibility of, in the future, importing wheat from India.
Mm-hmm. So, are there other countries as well, if you can mention them, from where Egypt is importing wheat? And also, there is now talks in global capitals that India can fulfill the need of the world when it comes to wheat amidst the Russian invasion of Ukraine. How do you see India's position in terms of providing to the world with the wheat?
Egypt has traditionally been importing wheat from other countries. We have traditionally been importing from Russia and Ukraine something like 80% of our yearly needs, and this is the reason behind the problem that we are in now, or the shortage that we are facing now, the problem with Ukraine and Russia. But we have also been importing from other countries, including France, including Romania, including the USA, including Argentina, as well as other countries as well. So we have traditionally been, as I said before, an important importer of wheat. And one good thing about being an importer is that sometimes you have the ability to affect the prices, international prices. When you're a big importer, you are not only a price taker, but you're also a price setter. So this gives us an ability to have communication with several countries that export wheat, and to also have our input on the trade of wheat in general on the international level. When it comes to India, you see, when I was speaking about our production is 9 million, and we import something like 12 million to fill in the gap of our consumption, that is 22. India produces, as far as I know, approximately 110 million, and consume something like 105 or 103 million. So the surplus that India has, of course, it's good to have surplus, but I'm not sure if the kind of surplus that India has can actually make a big difference on the international market or not. We hope that it will, because everybody in the world needs to see the global supply chain of major agricultural products coming back to normal and being and back to stability. And I hope that India can open this.
So you are a major importer. You talked about how Egypt sets the price. You have mentioned as well, but how has this invasion, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the conflict there, impacted the wheat imports and, of course, the prices as well as an importer, if you can talk about that?
No, of course, everybody has been noticing this. The prices have soared to unprecedented levels. Now we have, in the past, I think, 1 ton of wheat, we used to be around like 380, 390 US dollars. Now we see prices as high as 500 US dollars. So this is, of course, a very big increase, because Russia was the number 1 producer of wheat on the international level, and I think Ukraine comes at number 4 or number 5. So both of them together account for a big chunk of the market. So the market has definitely been affected. And when I say that Egypt is a price setter as well, this does not mean that Egypt is the only country that has an influence on the price. It means that we, as one of the biggest buyers, we have an influence, because when Egypt comes into the market and tries to import, the price has to respond in a certain way that is different from when other smaller buyers maybe come into the market and try to behave in this way or that way, or affect the price in this way or that way. So a big importer is important, and also a big exporter is important when it comes to the price mechanism of wheat in the international level.
So my last question to you is on the relationship between India and Egypt. Both are civilizational countries. They have, of course, important role in their own region and, of course, globally as well. How does the relationship go forward in terms of engagement, high-level visits, and what next we can expect in the relationship?
I hope that what we can expect over the coming period is an intensified kind of relationship between Egypt and India. Not only in terms of economic interactions and trade, just like wheat, which is very important and comes to add to the strategic relationship between both countries, because this is actually a very strategic commodity, but also in terms of exchange on the higher level. As you might know, we were expecting His Excellency Prime Minister Modi to visit Egypt in 2020. Unfortunately, the visit did not take place, but we are still hopeful that this will be able to take place sometime this year. And I'm sure that relations between both countries have enormous horizons and enormous potentials that we can, if we really put our hands together, we can tap on and make benefit for both countries.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for speaking to WION. So that was the Egyptian envoy speaking on several issues, whether it's the relationship, whether it's the import of Indian wheat, and how, of course, this is important at a time when we know that the conflict is happening in Ukraine. With video journalist Neeraj Patel, Siddhant Sibal for WION in New Delhi.